monitor on? There we go. Welcome to the Financial and Administrative Services Committee meeting for April 15th. Call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock. Our land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island and acknowledge these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. Can I get somebody to adopt our agenda? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair Berg. I would move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
All right.
Mayor Clayton.
Thiessen in favor.
That carries unanimously. On this committee are myself, Chair Grant Berg, Councillor Thiessen, Councillor Bressy, and Mayor Clayton. All are in the House. I don't see any delegations, so reports, service area update. Chief Whiteway.
Thank you very much, Chair Berg. So within financial management, the 2024 fourth quarter report and audited financial statements are going to be presented later on today in the agenda. So with wrapping that up, staff are working on preparation for the 2025 Q1 report. That's expected to come to committee next month. And budget staff are working on updating documents and tools for departmental budget preparations. This includes preliminary planning with the corporate leadership team and preparing the first quarter variances. Tax and assessment are working on scheduling of assessment appeals. This year, 49 appeals were received, which is down from previous years. Requests for information have also been mailed to residential property owners. These help assist us in making sure our property records are accurate and up to date. Close to 5,000 were mailed. This does give owners a chance to fill out the information online, but if the information is not provided online, an assessor will visit the property later this year. The areas in which residential requests were sent to are South Patterson, Smith, Downtown, Fieldbrook, Crystal Landing, Riverstone, Countryside, North and South, Copperwood, Cornerstone, and Cobblestone. Taxation is preparing for tax time, and the tax rate bylaw should be at the next committee meeting. Procurement and supply chain management have a number of bids on the market. This includes broadleaf and noxious weed control, Bear River control structure armoring, paving designs for 105th Street and 99th Street, as well as community garden project, playground sand, baseball dugouts, and more. Finally, within Geographical and Information Technology Services, we do have the teams continuing to revise and update the spring and summer seasonal GIS application requirements for a variety of departmental operations. The implementation of the Grande Prairie Police Service and Enforcement Solutions for police operations has kicked off for development. The city GIS and regional partners are continuing to establish new tools for mapping processes for GPrep in preparation for the summer fire season should it be needed. The technology support for implementation of the Integrated Emergency Communication Center Department and expanded dispatch solutions continues, and ITS supports that initiative. And the user migration from city domain to the new Grande Prairie Police Service operations has been largely completed with very limited operational disruptions. And that does conclude my update, Chair Berg.
Okay, thanks, Chief Whiteway. Any questions from committee? Anyone else on council? No? Okay, moving on then. 5.3, the Q4 2024. Oh, sorry, Councillor I need somebody to move that. Councillor Thiessen? Nope. Oh, okay, that was service. Okay. 5.2, 2025 business improvement. I'm ahead of myself on the schedule. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Berg. So before you today is the new bylaw, which will set the 2025 BIA tax rate. As you all know, at the last council meeting, council approved the 2025 Downtown Association's budget. The assessment department has completed inspections in the downtown area, and the new assessments are complete. With the budget approved and the assessments complete, we can now bring forward the tax rate, which will generate the required revenue. In regards to the assessment base, it's increased a small amount, 0.6%. The Downtown Association's budget remains the same, and the city's out-of-pocket expenses are slightly less than they were in 2024. With that, a tax rate of 2.15% is required to generate the levy that has been requested. Just so the committee is aware, this bylaw must be passed by May 1st. Just in closing, Mr. Chair, we're asking that committee recommend that council give 3 readings to this bylaw, and with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Looking around, I don't see any. All right then. Motion, Councillor Bressie.
Yeah, happy to move that we recommend this to council.
And that's in order. On the question.
And Bressie in favor.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Okay. Your mic, Mayor.
Thanks, Chair Berg. Ms. Whiteway, I know Councillor Plott last meeting brought up alternative methods for managing downtown associations, but I understand there maybe wasn't direction to bring back any additional information. Has administration done any exploration on what different models of downtown associations could look like? The reason I'm asking this is I know there was some interest from Councillor Plott as well as one of my other colleagues exploring other alternatives, and this tax rate would be for, I can see council approving this, but it may be additional context sort of to give some time to look through different models. And so I'm wondering if you've done any of that work to date.
Thank you, through Chair Burke. We've not really touched on much for, so it would be something we would appreciate to bring back if there was information council wanted.
Councillor Plott will be back for the council meeting, so I'll get him to bring that forward at the council meeting for some direction, specifically what he's looking for. Thanks. Sorry about that, Chair Burke.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. So again, Councillor Bressie moved that motion, so we'll call the question again.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Smith. 5.3, the Q4 2024 financial report. Chief Whiteway.
Thank you again, Chair Burke. To begin, I will summarize the 2024 quarter 4 financial report that's included in your agenda package. This does report on the unaudited results of the City of Grande Prairie for the year ending December 31st, 2024. Subsequent to this report, our independent auditor and I will review the results of the external audit that was performed. The audited financial statements will differ from the quarter 4 financials due to the audited statements being consolidated with the Grande Prairie Airport and the Grande Prairie Public Library. I'm pleased to present the unaudited financial statements for the City of Grande Prairie for the 4th quarter ending December 31st, 2024. This report outlines our fiscal position, highlights key variances, and offers recommendations on the use of our year-end surplus. The City closed out 2024 in a strong financial position. As of December 31st, we reported a net financial asset position of $132 million. This means that the City's financial assets exceed its liabilities, and this healthy position provides the flexibility and capacity to fund operations and capital projects while buffering against some future uncertainty. In terms of accumulated surplus, we have a total of $854 million. This includes both cash and non-cash components, such as tangible capital assets. This accumulated surplus supports ongoing service delivery and long-term community investments. During 2024, the City realized an operating surplus of $5.1 million. This represents approximately 2.5% of our total operating budget. After thorough review, administration recommends allocating the surplus as follows: $1.4 million to the new recreation facility capital project to ensure sufficient funding for project award, $2.043 million to the Council Strategic Initiative Fund for the 2026 to 2029 term, providing future councils with resources to support key priorities, $1.37 million to the Grande Prairie Police Service to complete their 2025 capital plan, and $300,000 to the newly established Community Enhancement Reserve. This reserve is intended to fund future enhancement projects directly benefiting our residents. The recommended allocations are strategic in nature, aiming to balance infrastructure investment, community benefit, and long-term planning flexibility. For 2024, the total revenue for the city was $197 million. This was up $8.5 million from the year before. This increase in revenue was primarily driven by a 3.9% tax increase, which was approximately $6 million, a $4.5 million increase in government transfers related to the support the city is receiving to transition to a municipal police service, and a $3 million increase in investment income, reflecting stronger returns from the city's investment portfolio. These gains were partially offset by lower revenues in areas such as court fines, penalties, and licenses. Expenditures for the city totaled $225 million, marking a $10 million increase over 2023. Key drivers included $5 million in higher salary and benefit costs. This reflected cost of living adjustments and the additional onboarding of new GPPS employees. $7.5 million in increased transfers to other organizations, mainly due to accounting standards requiring recognition of in-kind contribution. This includes services and assets like lease space, utilities, even land and buildings, totaling $6.4 million in newly recorded transfers. Some of these increased costs were offset by savings as well, notably in contracted services, RCMP payments, and facility maintenance. The surplus of $5.1 million reflects both revenue gains and spending efficiencies. A few items to highlight: revenue exceeded expectations in fire with unexpected grants received. Transit saw increased ridership and revenues, and recreation memberships at Eastlink exceeded expectations. Expense savings were achieved in snow removal due to inventory carryovers and less snowfall in the early months of 2024. Additionally, the city saw savings in utilities, enforcement contracts, and general operating costs. Where savings have been identified as permanent, future budgets have already been adjusted. Within the Grande Prairie Police Service, there was a $1.5 million surplus. With these savings, administration has recommended a portion be utilized for their capital transition requirements. Salaries and benefits were $865,000 under budget. This was mostly due to attrition, delayed hiring, and staffing vacancies. Some savings were offset by overtime related to emergency response support and community events. So as of the end of the year, the city reserve stood at $91 million, ensuring our ability to respond to capital and operating needs without undue reliance on debt or tax increases. We carried forward $62 million in active capital projects, many of which are funded through capital tax reserves, general debt. This carry forward supports multi-year infrastructure initiatives, including roads, recreation, and more. Long-term debt is at $124 million. This is well within the limits prescribed by the Municipal Government Act, with $129.6 million of room under our self-imposed 80% debt limit. We are in a sustainable position and have structured repayment plans in place. So in summary, the city's 2024 financial results reflect strong stewardship, prudent budgeting, and continued investment in priorities. We're maintaining sufficient reserves, managing debt responsibly, and capitalizing on new funding opportunities. Importantly, our approach to the recommended allocation of the year-end surplus aligns closely with Council's strategic plan. It supports sustainable infrastructure through strategic capital funding, builds flexibility into future council terms via the Strategic Initiative Fund. It invests in police and community safety, and it enables enhancements that improve the quality of life for residents. With that, Chair Berg, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
All right, any questions from committee? Councillor Thiessen?
Thank you very much, Chair Berg, and thanks for the report, Chief Whiteway. Appreciate it. Just a question. I was looking over the capital tables and all the columns associated with them. And I had a question that popped up in my head because I started noticing there were some items that were listed on our capital projects list that were initialized and started, some as far back as 2013, some like the Montrose Cultural Center emergency generator, council budgeted for in 2015, and the Golden Aid Center sprinkler system in 2016. But those funds have not been used yet. And now I do see in the columns that there's we're going to likely be putting in the generator in 26, 27, and maybe the Golden Aid Center sprinkler system in 26. But how long do we typically hold our capital items before we launch? I guess because when council does budget, for instance, in 2015, we made budget for that emergency generator, and I was quite shocked to see that it's still not there yet. So how long do we hold these capital items?
Chief Whiteway?
Thank you, through the chair. So I can't speak specifically to the projects you've identified, but in general, I'll say that project monitoring did begin a few years back to this level of detail with council. We actively monitor quarterly every capital project. There would be operational reasons, perhaps, that some projects do get delayed. Other reasons that they may be remaining open is for a warranty period. We do like to keep the capital project open. But in general, in practice, what we've been trying to do with these reports as well is exactly that. Identify some that haven't been, look at do they still need to happen in the same capacity. And as we've done, we've rearranged things or brought things back to council at mid-year to try to reflect maybe current needs. Those two projects in particular, if you were interested in those in detail, I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, yeah, and the big reason why the question is because it's been sitting on our books for 10 years now in the generator instance, and it was important to council back in the day, but we haven't expended any of those funds yet either, so it got me raising my eyebrows. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Anyone else? I have a couple of questions. One was around process on how, and congratulations and thank you for a $5.1 million surplus. Hats off to administration on that. What was the process in dividing that? Because I'm sure that there was no shortage of priorities and asks to see that. So just kind of wondering about your process.
Thank you for the question, Chair Burke. And the year-end strategic allocation was something that the corporate leadership worked on together, knowing what projects needed to be completed and the priorities of council. So with the new recreation facility going out to market, it was determined some additional budget would be required. So ensuring that we can award that project, we knew was high on council's priorities. So allocating funding there. The newly created community enhancement, we are required to put up to 10% of surplus to a maximum of $300,000. So that's why you see that $300,000 there. The Police Commission had identified that there was some capital costs needing to be covered for 2025. So the police transition success would depend on some additional capital requirements for 2025 to ensure that they can be police of jurisdiction. So we do expect that they'll come back with a formalized ask for capital, but we thought it prudent today to put forward a funding source for that when it comes forward. And finally, Council Strategic Initiatives Fund. Many great projects have come out of that fund over the years, and this is a great opportunity to fund that for the next council term.
Yeah, thank you. And a couple of questions possibly around the Council Strategic Initiative Fund. So that is for the next council, just for clarification. What did this council come in with for a fund?
Thank you. If you just give me one moment, I will go look up what your total amount was. It was a little bit different. The policy was just recently developed with an actual dollar amount. So I'll just need a few minutes to get the total pot.
Or even just ballpark if somebody else in the room might know.
I can look it up, Chair Berg, after and provide it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it was around $3 million. So we'll just assume it was around $3 million. Is there an opportunity to top this up to that 3 million, or do we not feel that's necessary for the next council?
Thank you for the question, Chair Berg. There should be other opportunity, perhaps. At this point, that was what we had available after the other priorities. But it isn't something that necessarily has to be fully pre-funded at the start of the term. It is something that we thought, let's get a start on it for the next council, but it is something that could be topped up throughout the council term.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Berg. Ms. Whiteway, just for public understanding, so at the end of Q3, we forecasted a slight smaller surplus. Now it's, I would say, fair amount larger than anticipated. We raised taxes to justify our expenses. So tell me, for the average ratepayer, the average resident in Grande Prairie, how they can have a better understanding of why this significant surplus?
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Mayor Clayton. So you are correct. The Q3 surplus was forecasted at just about 3.4 million, and this one coming in at 5.1. Our most significant unforecasted at Q3 advantage was our investments. We had taken advantage in 2023 of some really great bonds, but as the bond market drops, those issuers actually are calling those higher ones. So we had the advantage this year of having some bonds called unexpectedly, which means instead of getting the revenue over time, it was all in 1 year. Now, that's not something that, if we look back on our financial trends, we have years where we're just below budget, we have years where we're on, and we have years where we're over. So we really, on that investment side, try to take a more average approach to budget. So that's an example of something unexpected this year that helped with the surplus, but unfortunately isn't something that can always be relied upon in its same capacity going forward. So that does impact what is required for taxation. The RCMP contract savings were a little quicker than we had anticipated with the Q3 forecast. So there was an additional $400,000 that was realized that we wouldn't need to spend in terms of that contract. So as with anything, forecasting, we always do our best with the information we know at the time. And there was a few things that had happened we didn't know would happen in the last quarter of the year.
Yep, follow up.
Thanks for that. And just for clarification, so we request from the RCMP a certain number, they fulfill best based on their ability to fill those positions. When they underfill, there is a credit that comes back to us. And so, but perpetually this has been happening, to be honest, year after year after year. The RCMP haven't been able to fulfill their member allotment that we've requested. And so what's the number, just for public consumption, that we will budget for in 2025? Because realistically, if historical trends are true, they won't fulfill that number either.
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Berg. So we have decreased the number of officers within budget. We have anticipated what would be needed. The transition, as originally approved, there has been some changes in terms of timing and when things may need to be done. And so we are sort of balancing that. We have taken into consideration the future years and what the decline will be, but we're also faced with sometimes additional information from the RCMP as we're able to work with them and as we're able to understand some of the billing. So as we progressed through the year and finished up the year end, realizing our contract had greater savings than we'd originally expected. We do review, as you know, budgets annually. So as information is updated, we will look at 2026 forward and what the estimates are for officers and try to align as close as possible.
Mayor Clayton.
I appreciate that context. I think it's valuable for the public to have a better understanding of the budgeting when it comes to our CMP members. If you could explain to me, and more for public consideration, because I think you mentioned it, the $600,000 in overtime in salaries.
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Burke. With our Grande Prairie Regional Emergency Partnership, the city does provide a lot of support for emergency situations, and a lot of that is done in an overtime situation. So the overage on overtime is predominantly due to those activations and the city staff supporting. We do invoice for a lot of that, so within revenue, we would be refunded for those amounts.
So is it not reflected in salaries when the revenue comes back from the province? Where is that reflected?
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, through the chair. In revenues.
Just
So-
in general revenues.
Yeah, accounting practices require us not to decrease the expense, but recognize the invoiced revenue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Clayton. Anyone else? All right, can I get a motion? Councillor Thiessen.
Sorry,
Mayor
before we
Clayton?
go, Councillor Thiessen, I'm just wondering if you should split them in case there's any discussion on the 4 items as recommended.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks.
Okay, we can split them.
But I don't know what his motions will be, so go for it, Councillor Thiessen.
Oh, no. My e-scribe keeps kicking me out, so I'm just getting to the exact motions here for you, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, and as any educated government official knows, you can split for any reason at any time. So I will make the motion that the Financial and Administration Services Committee recommends Council receive the unaudited financial statements and supporting information for the period ending December 31st, 2024 for information.
All right, that's in order. I'll call the question. Councillor Thiessen.
Right, just a question to Mayor Clayton. When requesting to split, are you talking about the I guess the reserve placements as well, each individual item, or?
Just as a bucket.
Okay, cool. Well, then I would move that committee approve the transfer, or recommend Council approve the transfer of the 2024 operating surplus of $5,113,000 to the following: $1.4 million to the new recreational facility capital project, $2.043 million to the Council Strategic Initiative Fund Reserve for the 26 to 29 term, $1.37 million to the Grande Prairie Police Services for capital funding, and $300,000 to be allocated to the Community Enhancement Reserve.
All right. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Berg. I just wanted to ask a few questions in regards to Community Enhancement Reserve. I know this is a policy we recently approved. Council, if I recall, in fall budget deliberations allocated approximately $200,000. So with this, the fund would be $500,000. So maybe for the CAO or Mr. Nellis, if he is aware, do we have the capacity to implement $500,000 into initiatives into our community in 2024?
CEO Burke.
Thank you, Chair Burke. Should this additional funding be put into that account, the plan is for administration to come back with a report of some options of things that could be completed. It will include both capital and the operating funds required, should there be some to bring those forward this year, whether that's through city staff or through that's contracting of services and the implementation. So the plan that comes forward will include both capital and operating for these funds.
Mayor Clayton.
Thanks for that. Ms. Whiteway, when the report comes forward for the community enhancement expenditures and say council decides that they're not fully in favor of spending it all, at that time, could council redirect the additional surplus to another reserve, or would it have to stay in that reserve?
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, through the chair. No, council has whatever they so choose to do with the funds. Yeah, you can move it to another reserve if you'd like.
And just for committee and council's understanding of where I'm thinking, if based on the projects that potentially come forward, I know council has talked about a lot of additional landscaping be a priority. We know there are other sort of enhancement initiatives that would add great value and beautification to our city. Choose we not to spend it all, I'm happy to have that conversation, whether it were to go into financial stabilization or potentially to top up the Council Strategic Initiative Fund, because of the fact that come this fall, the new council, if they want to start at a base where we did in regards to the opportunities of spending that Strategic Initiative Fund, it will more than likely have to come from tax requisition. So when we see that report, I look forward to having a conversation in regards to how much of that reserve in community enhancement we actually can facilitate this year in 2025. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Clayton. Any other comments or questions on the motion? No? All right, I'll call the question. That carries unanimously. 5.4, the 2024 audited consolidated financial statements. And they're moving to the table. And Chief Whiteway, I'll leave it with you.
Thank you, Chair Burke. So with me today is our external auditor with MNP, Tanya Edmonds. So the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024 are in your agenda package. The financial statements include a summary of management's responsibility, the independent auditor's report, and all necessary statements, schedules, and disclosures as required under public sector accounting standards. Public sector accounting standards does require the consolidation of controlled entities. So for the city, this means that the financial statements of the Grande Prairie Airport Commission and the Grande Prairie Public Library have been consolidated with the city's financials. Ultimately, management is responsible for the preparation and presentation of the consolidated audited financial statements. But I will not be walking through the entire financial statement in great detail, as the only difference from the Q4 financial report are the consolidated entities and the additional disclosure requirements. But I will highlight a few of the results of the audit engagement. So during the course of the audit, it was determined that 2 prior period adjustments were required for opening balances January 1st, 2023. The first adjustment relates to 5 buildings that were not capitalized as part of the 2009 accounting transition to public accounting standards. This transition meant that municipalities had to now include tangible capital asset balances in the financial statements. Previously, these were all expensed as they were purchased. In 2009, administration did not include the buildings in the scope of capitalization as it was concluded there to be no future economic benefit. It is no longer the opinion of management that these buildings hold no economic value. As a municipality, economic benefit is much broader than profits, and it encompasses the community's needs. So this decision did require a retroactive correction to the financial statements. The second adjustment relates to the valuation of the expended cost of the asset retirement obligation for hazardous material abatement on buildings constructed in 1996 to present. So previously, we had assessed a reduction in the valuation of hazardous material abatement on those buildings that were newer than 1995. Our original estimate was 60% of the cost of buildings constructed prior to 1995. And after discussing with our auditors, other municipalities, and reviewing federal and provincial regulations, it was determined that a further reduction was appropriate. So both adjustments required restatement of balances, and these restatements have been included in the Statement of Financial Position and the Statement of Operations. And it is important to note that even with corrections, the city is still in compliance with municipal affairs indicators, and these changes do not have any impact on the city's budget. And I will pass it to Tanya to discuss the audit opinion and the audit findings.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmonds?
Thank you. So yeah, in your financial statements, there's an independent auditor's report. So that's MNP's opinion on your financial statements. Like Ms. Whiteway said, the financial statements are yours. It's a clean auditor's opinion. It's unqualified. There is a paragraph that just says emphasis of matters, and that's just stating that prior year's financial statements have been restated for the 2 items noted. and that the prior year financial statements, everything else was issued by another auditor. So it's an unqualified opinion, exactly what you want to hear and want to read. So nothing in there of concern. And that's the only part of the financial statements that are ours. So then I will just go into the audit findings report. So the audit findings report is just a summary and overall highlight of our what we did, what we found. So I came out actually in January, and we went over the audit service plan and telling you what I was going to do and kind of my materiality and different things. And so we didn't stray away from anything in that. Our materiality was still $6 million. I'm just going to go through it just very quickly, highlight the things that are of importance, I guess. So we didn't come across any fraud in our testing. We're not designated to find fraud. You know, we're not specifically looking for it, but if we find it, we have to report it. We didn't find anything of concern. We had lots of discussion with the management team, and I would like to thank Ms. Whiteway and her team for all of the hard work and support that we received during our audit. It's always, being the first time there's always some, new questions, I'm sure, that maybe you didn't have before, or a different way of asking. So we have some significant differences that we had, and mainly they were all to do with the consolidation and or Aquaterra, bringing those balances in. And then we had our final materiality that I said I would report back on, which was 3% of the expenses. It came out to be exactly what we had planned to do, so I didn't do any changes in that. In your financial statements, the biggest estimates that you have would be your not your allowance for doubtful accounts, sorry, your amortization and your capital assets. And of course, that's always an estimate. The same thing with your ARO, your asset retirement obligations, that's an estimate, and I would expect that's going to be a number that will continually change as you gather new information as to any abatement that may be necessary in any of your buildings. There in the package, there's a management's representation letter, and that's just saying that everything that we know to be true and accurate is reflected in the financial statements as they are presented. And there's also an independent auditor's report. They're just the same one that's in your financial statements, and also an independence letter that just says that M&P, we don't sit on the board, we don't make any of the decisions, the financial statements are yours. And essentially, that is it. It talks about the areas that we spent our attention matters on, and a lot of it is all to do with, we look at government transfers and revenue. We look at tangible capital assets. We had quite a bit of discussion on that, as well as the asset retirement obligations. There was a new handbook section in the year that we talked about at the planning stage with regards to concessionary items. So, that's a new line on your financial statements and a new handbook section that we spent some time with discussions on. Then we had, the main adjustments that I spoke of were the amalgamation or the consolidation entries. We had a number of insignificant adjusted differences, largely to do with just the timing of some items, like the biggest one being sick accrual is not recorded. It wasn't recorded in 2024, and it wasn't recorded in 2023. The other item being unrecorded payroll, it's just the last couple of days of payroll wasn't recorded, but that would have reversed in 2025 year end. So it's a timing item. But overall, your unadjusted differences was about $760,000, and that means that there's another $5.2 million that your statements could be wrong before it would mislead a user. So that's very low and a great number to come in at. And otherwise, that's essentially all of the report. Like I said, the most of the discussion was just on asset retirement obligations and capital assets, and largely their new handbook, like the asset retirement section was a new handbook section in 2023.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
Chief Whiteway.
Thanks, Chair Burke. I'm just going to wrap that up now. A reminder to Council and the public, the MGA requires that the financial statements be audited each year for municipalities. The city's independent auditors have issued an unqualified opinion. So that means that the financial statements do present fairly in all material respects the city's financial position and results of the financial activities for the year. And it is recommended that committee recommend council approve the audited consolidated financial statements for the city of Grande Prairie for the year ended December 31st, 2024. Thank you, Chair Berg.
All right. Any questions? Councillor Bressy.
Great. Thank you, Chair Berg. And thanks for the work. As you said, I know it's a lot of work getting through the first year with a new auditor. So congratulations to the team getting through audit. Just one comment and one question about notes is I did notice in the notes there's still Alberta Urban Municipalities Association mentioned a few times. That should be a change to the Association of Alberta Municipalities. But a question I had was note 20 on page 30 talks about the Grande Prairie Firefighter Supplementary Pension Plan. And it says that evaluation was supposed to be held in 2024. I'm just wondering, did that happen and what happened with that?
Through the chair. That's currently in progress. So unfortunately, timing doesn't allow the actuary to get through all their work for the December 24 year end for the SUP plan. So it'll be disclosed in next year's financial statements. We can't pick it up with timing that way.
Gotcha. So it's happening in 2025, but it's based on 2024 numbers.
Correct.
Awesome.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you for allowing me to ask this question. Just for clarification for the general public, on page 1 of the Consolidated Statement of Financial Position, it shows financial assets cash, and note 3, it shows in 2023 $34,132,051, and in 2024 it's $22,099,207. When you go to note 3 on page 18, it doesn't show, and this may be a accounting thing, and I'd like the general public just to understand that this difference, there's no note there that says what's happened from 2023 to 2024, and I'm assuming that money was reinvested and absorbed in the organization somewhere.
Chief Whiteway.
Thank you, Chair Burke. Yeah, so a decline in cash does mean perhaps that at the end of 24, there was maybe more invested, more cash on hand for various reasons. I'll just tell you that sometimes, one item, for example, our deferred revenue. So we completed a lot of grant-funded projects. So what may have been in cash got utilized. So cash is formed by some of those carry forwards of things that happen year over year. And so that's why you will see fluctuations. So you'll see items like liabilities decreasing, which means more cash out. And then you did see an increase in portfolio investments, which is a utilization of cash. So we do invest. We did invest $4 million here, or $3.5 million more from last year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I have one question, Chief Whiteway, and this is an educational piece for me as well. How is the portion that we collect for the province for the education tax recorded as an in and out?
Thank you for the question, Chair Berg. So it's in our taxation line. So the tax line for tax revenue does include any additional requisitions. So it's not just purely municipal tax. And then the corresponding requisition expenditure is recorded as an expense. So it's grossed up revenue with an expenditure to pay out for the education levy, the seniors housing, as well as even the downtown levy is recorded that way as well.
So is there a simple way in this formula to show what we send to the province at a glance, or is it kind of camouflaged in there? I know that's a comment that, especially with the province raising the educational tax, that I would love to see at a glance, rather than it reflecting that it looks like we're taking all of that and and just something simple and easy.
Yeah, page 8 does exactly what you're asking. So if you flip to that page in your financial statements, there is a consolidated schedule of net municipal taxes. So it will show you the real linear downtown, the grants in place of taxes and local improvements, and then it'll show what was requisitioned for the various organizations.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. I'll spend more time on that one. Anyone else have any questions? Not seeing any. Can I get a motion? Councillor Bressie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Berg. Well, actually, I believe that we need to go in camera prior to.
Oh, we need to go in camera for this? Okay.
So I'm happy to move that we
Can make that motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to go in camera by Councillor Bressie. I'll call the question. And that carries unanimously. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the Financial and Administrative Services Committee meeting. From what I understand, Councillor Blackmore has a question.
Thank you, Chair Berg. I do have one question, and it is a little speculative on your part, I would guess. But do you see any significant accounting changes coming from your College of Professional Accountants sometime in the next 24 months, or anything that we need to start planning for now?
Ms. Edmonds?
Yes, there's always changes. But one of the changes is on the presentation, some of the presentations in the financial statements, how things are going to be shown. And it's not for another 2 years, I believe that is. And so nothing that you would really need to change. It's just that how some things may be presented, like not an internal process change. However, experience with the accounting standards is that it's not a final change until it's a final change.
And sometimes things come out of seemingly left field. Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Bressie.
I move the the committee recommend council approve the audited consolidated financial statements of the City of Grande Prairie for the year ended December 31st, 2024. And just speak to it again. Thank you to our team, both internally here at the city and at MMP, for all the work that went into this. It is always reassuring to see the professionalism and the organization of our team make sure that taxpayer dollars are spent where taxpayer dollars are supposed to be sent. And so appreciate the work that went into this, and excited to get this before council.
All right, thanks, Councillor Bressie. I'll call the question. Yep, thanks, Ms. Edmonds.
Okay, thank you.
And moving on, no correspondence, other business, or policy review. So, two outstanding items. Once again, Chief Waitway.
Thank you, Chair Berg. 1347 was completed at the last Council Committee of the Whole meeting, so I believe that item could be removed.
Okay. Motion, Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Berg. I would move that, the committee accept the outstanding items list as amended. Which, just to note, since Chief Waitway noted that our asset management strategy was dealt with at the last Council Committee of the Whole, this means we're the most efficient committee and service area on all of Council. So thank you very much, Chief Waitway, for helping us out there. It's got to be the chair and maybe the members too. But I would move that we approve this as amended.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thiessen. I'll call the question. And with that, I call the meeting of the Financial and Administrative Services Committee adjourned.